Hello and welcome to Chapter 6. So Topic 6 is all about human physiology. So we're going to touch on some of the basics of a lot of different body systems. Obviously today we're starting with digestion. We'll do a little circulatory, a little lymphatic, talking about immune system. We'll do a little reproduction, muscles, all that kind of stuff. Just to kind of give you a brief overview of human phys. So let's dive right in. This should be one of your easier ones because you kind of know what happens in your digestive system. So, basic outline, this is your digestive system. You should be able to draw a pretty basic drawing of the digestive system and label it appropriately using the terms that are on your screen right now. So, starting with your mouth, it goes into the esophagus, down into your stomach, to the small intestine, to the large intestine, out the rectum. You also have 3 additional pieces of the digestive system, your liver, your pancreas, and your gallbladder. That deals with kind of filtering out certain materials. Pancreas deals with insulin production. Gallbladder is with bile. So these are like additional organs found in the digestive system, but it's not part of the actual route that food takes throughout your body. Going through just the basic outline of what these pieces do, you have the mouth, which is mechanical and chemical digestion. Mechanical is chewing, chemical is with enzymes that help break down macromolecules. Esophagus moves the food from the mouth to the stomach by peristalsis, which is like muscle contractions. Stomach churns and mixes the food, at this point called bolus, with water and acid. Also deals with protein digestion. Small intestine is kind of the final stage of digestion where you're breaking down lipids, carbs, proteins, and nucleic acids so that you can take up all of those macromolecules. It also neutralizes stomach acid because stomachs have a pH of about 2, which is pretty acidic, and absorption of nutrients by villi, which we will talk about a little bit later on in this video. And then the large intestine is responsible for the absorption of water. So small intestine, absorption of nutrients, large intestine, water. Also, once the water is absorbed out from the large intestine, this is how you form and store feces. Going into the 3 accessory organs, liver is the secretion of surfactants and bile to break up lipid droplets, so to break up lipids or fats. The gallbladder stores and regulates the release of bile, and then the pancreas is the secretion of lipase, amylase, and protease. So lipases break down lipids, amylases break down starches or carbs, and proteases break down proteins. These are all enzymes that break down macromolecules into their monomers. So 2 major groups found in the digestive system, the alimentary canal. This is like mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestines, rectum. This is where food actually passes. And then accessory organs, I've mentioned this a few times, but your accessory organs assist in digestion, but aren't actually part of where food passes. This is your liver, pancreas, gallbladder, and salivary glands. We didn't talk about those on the last slide, but salivary glands is where your amylases are stored, so they produce spit, and also they release enzymes to help start the chemical breakdown of food in your mouth. Enzymes and digestion, so large molecules need to be digested into monomers, or like little tiny building blocks, before they can be absorbed by the body. You cannot absorb like an entire cheeseburger into your blood system, right? You need to break down all the parts of the cheeseburger into soluble products that are easily absorbed. Okay, we've talked about this, or I've brought this up in this video, but so that you see it, you can write it down. Amylases break down carbs or starches, proteases break down proteins, and lipases break down fats and lipids. That makes sense, right? Protein, like that's basically protein. Lipids, even though it's pronounced lipase, it's like kind of close to lipids. This one's a little out of left field, amylase, right? But that's just one you gotta remember. Why do we need enzymes? Hopefully this is obvious why we need enzymes, but enzymes speed up digestion by lowering the activation energy. And by doing that, they're able to make it easier to actually absorb all of those nutrients that you are trying to digest and use. Enzymes work at specific temperatures, specific pHs, right? So the enzymes that we have in our body, if they're in the stomach, they work at a lower pH because they need to, because stomachs are acidic. So they allow these digestive processes to occur at body temperature, but also at different pHs throughout the body, depending on where they're found. So it's really interesting, and that also allows all of these macromolecules, all of this food, to be broken down continuously as it goes through the digestive system, instead of just like everything happens in this one spot and the rest of it is pointless, right? Because enzymes can work at different temps and pHs, it's a continuous process as food travels throughout the entire digestive system. Enzymes are also specific for a certain substrate. So like, again, lipases only break down lipids, right? That just makes sense. So you can have lipases working simultaneously while proteases are working. So you're breaking down things all at the same time. Peristalsis, this happens in the esophagus. It also happens in the intestines sometimes, but peristalsis is waves of smooth muscle contraction. So it's like if you like take your hands and you push them towards each other, then away from each other, then towards each other, then away from each other, that's peristalsis. And the goal of this is just to move food along. Like, it started in the mouth, now we're moving it along to the stomach, right? It also churns the food as you are moving it, so it continuously mixes it up, keeps pushing it, mixing it, pushing it, mixing it, so that you can change what parts of the food are on the surface of the bolus, which is the ball of food, so that they can continuously be digested. This is an involuntary reaction. You do not have to think about moving your esophagus while you eat, right? That would be so time consuming. Instead, it just happens. This just happens naturally. Same with your heartbeat. You don't have to think about those things. Your body just does it because that's what needs to be done. This occurs really quickly in the esophagus, right? It's not like, imagine if it took like an hour for the food to travel from your mouth to your stomach. It would feel weird. It would be very noticeable, but that's not what happens. It takes seconds, right? But in the intestine, it works really slowly because you want to absorb all of those nutrients as you're going through it. So the stomach, once the bolus, which is the ball of food, goes to the stomach, it becomes chyme. Just fancy words for food, okay? So once you have a ball of food that you've chewed up in your mouth, it's called a bolus. Once the bolus enters the stomach, it's called chyme. The stomach has a low pH, which kills bacteria and starts to denature proteins. The stomach is full of these like muscular ridges. You can see it kind of looks like a brain. It's called rugae. And that helps with mechanical digestion because the stomach can like squeeze itself and continuously turn the food that's in it. Then the small intestine, after the stomach, the food moves into the small intestine. Again, you have peristalsis happening here, but the small intestine is broken into 3 sections. The duodenum is right after the stomach, and this is where bile is released into the food from the gallbladder and the liver, because the gallbladder and liver are right next to the duodenum. Then the jejunum is the second part. This is where pancreatic enzymes are released because, again, this is right near where the pancreas is. And then the third part is the ileum, and this is where actual absorption takes place. So during the duodenum and the jejunum, this is where you are continuing to break down this food and releasing all of these nutrients that the body wants to absorb. In the ileum, that's where the absorption actually happens. In the small intestine, like inside the small intestine, it is covered in villi and microvilli. The reason for that is to increase surface area for absorption. Even though your small intestine is quite long, it's all wrapped up, and you don't want to be digesting food for like days on end. So the villi and microvilli are there to increase surface area, which speeds up absorption. The capillaries within the villi absorb water, monosaccharides, which is carbs, amino acids, proteins, fatty acids and glycerol, lipids, nucleotides are from nucleic acids, and then minerals and vitamins. So again, we are absorbing all of the macromolecules, the monomers of macromolecules, minerals, and vitamins. The lacteals absorb lipids, and you'll see a picture of that on the next slide. And all of these absorbed molecules are transported and assimilated into cellular structures in the body. So we use all of these molecules that we're absorbing. We don't just absorb it for the fun of it. We actually use what we're absorbing. This is a villi, just so that you have an idea. So this is like one after another in the small intestine over and over and over again. So this whole thing is a villi. And then each of these little cells is a microvilli. So each of these cells has these little like protrusions, which increases surface area again. So the microvilli will take in nutrients that you can break down, right? This is where absorption happens. It passes through here. It goes into the bloodstream, right? Arteries and veins. The lacteal is inside of that, and that's where lipid absorption happens. Okay? So absorption versus assimilation. Absorption is the uptake of molecules, right? It's just like literally taking in the molecules that have been digested. And assimilation is when those molecules that you've taken in are actually being used by the body. So absorption is the basic just absorption, which you can't use the word in the definition, the basic taking up of proteins, and assimilation is using those proteins in a different cell. So assimilation is like the big end goal here, right? You want to assimilate all of these macromolecules to be used, right? You want to actually use these things. All right, so into the large intestine, once absorption has taken place in the ileum, any undigested food gets pushed into the large intestine. All you want to do here is reclaim as much water as possible before you actually release feces. You don't want to have watery feces, first of all, but you also don't want to release any water that you can use in your body. So if I'm drinking water, it's probably because my body needs water, and so I should take it out of the food that I'm eating and use it where it needs to be used. And that is the large intestine's job, is to make sure all water gets used and gets reclaimed if possible. At the end of this, any solid waste that is still left over is released from the body as solid feces, and that's the end of the road. So that's the entire digestive system. I know you've learned about this kind of stuff before, so hopefully none of this is super new. I will tell you, though, that the villi, if you're unfamiliar with that, that is a big idea. Increasing surface area is always a big idea. So if you didn't get that, please go back to those slides, re-watch that, re-look at that, make sure that it's all written down. And I will see you in class. Good job.